forth on what I wanted to show you guys today, and I thought about all of the live capturing and processing that we've been talking about over the last day or so here. And what I want to do is take a step in a different direction and kind of focus on some podcasting experiments that we've been doing at Columbia over the last couple of years. Yesterday I went into workflow that we provide for our services for our medical center with their podcasting capture. But the other side of our podcasting work at the center is involved with a lot of projects that we partner with faculty. And in these podcast experiments, we've really tried to look at chaptering, captioning, and the distribution of supplemental materials through PDF as further extensions of the media that we produce for our projects. It's something that we've had our eye on for a while. We've kind of been seeing where the podcasting community has been trying to go and where the technology is going to be supported in different areas. And in a lot of ways, we're still looking to see where it's going to go. But if we go back to some of the things that we talked about during our Hope Box, I think we're still interested to see where chapters and captioning will fit into podcasting in the long run. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you some projects that we've worked on and how we've tried to enhance the podcasts that go along with it. A lot of what I'm going to show you have never really been seen outside of the classroom. A lot of these projects are faculty partnered. We will pursue grants to develop them, and it's usually written into the grants that we will use this in class. And there is some sensitive material in here that we're putting a lot of weight on fair use, as you'll see as I go forward. But on the back end, in our offices, we've really tried to do a lot of R&D on the materials that we produce for these projects to kind of bring them to the next level. What I'd like to show you first is a project that we launched 3 years ago, and it's called the Film Language Glossary. We partnered with a professor at the Columbia Film School, Richard Pena, who is on the board there. He is also the head of he's the program director of the Film Society at Lincoln Center. Along with our library digital media research librarian, we put together for his class a glossary of film terms that were assigned to students that they could use within Richard's class. And all of these terms were written by Richard and other faculty in the department. James Seamus, who is also a faculty professor at Columbia and CEO of Focus Features, I believe, and a few others. What I'd like to show you is how, I can go to my terms. Okay. I'm going to take one example here. It's the 180 degree rule. Now, what we've included with each term in the glossary is media that contains multiple layers of video and audio and other contextual information to enhance the research and study while using these terms. So one analogy we've used before is kind of like an online DVD. We've captured short clips from movies, and we have them in quick time wrappers. And a student, while reading the glossary, will have two options. They can watch the film clip as is. In this case, it's Showdown from Harikiri. This clip is supposed to show that as the shots change within this scene, the camera never breaks the 180 rule, which means it doesn't cross the axis. And some film people in here might know of it. So you can watch this film clip from Harikiri and see how the shots are arranged in the scene. Now, we also provide the option to watch it with a clip, with a commentary by Richard Pena and with annotations that further describe how this is happening. So I'll show you just a short clip of that here.
One of the most commonly used and frequently cited rules or practices of classical filmmaking is the 180-degree rule. The 180-degree rule imagines that there's some kind of invisible axis between the camera and the players who are being filmed. the camera will always stay on one side of that axis and the players will always stay on the other. The belief was that if the camera crossed that axis and went to the other side, suddenly people would switch positions. That is, people on the right would now appear on the left and vice versa.
So that's one example of many of the film clips that exist within this glossary. In true center fashion, what we try to do is we adhere to a methodology that's called design research. I'm not going to go deep into that. It's highly pedagogical, but I'll sum it up in saying that what we do is for every project, we try and roll over our advances to the next. After the film language glossary, we worked with a professor at Barnard College, which is an affiliate of Columbia, Danielle Mioe, and she's teaching she was teaching an Italian language course where she used Italian films to teach her students not just the Italian language, but also local dialects and glossary items. So what we tried to do here in Kaleidoscope is provide the same type of functionality, only this time with transcripts and glossary items. So here's a clip from the Divorce Italian Style. I'll just show this quickly, I don't want to eat up too much time. But you can see that in this clip, we have the Italian transcript going along with our media, and then we also have the glossary items that pull up alongside the transcript.
What tools were used for you on that?
QuickTime Pro, and I think we use LiveStation Pro in some cases. But it's really just, we have a bunch of text tracks, QuickTime text tracks, and simple JavaScript switcher.
Puoi essere andate del sud, le case, dolci, snervanti, no?
What I really want to do is move on so we can get some of the podcasting stuff in. So around the time that the 5G iPod came out, we really wanted to experiment with different ways that we could extend the ways that these tools work and possibly move them to the mobile portal field. So what we tried to do in this case is we created a podcast of all the media from the film language glossary. And through our access, we moved it onto an iPod. We also published the entire film language glossary site to the iPod Notes feature and moved that onto the iPod device itself. So what we did was we created a localized version of the film language glossary on a 5G iPod for RSS and the Notes feature. But of course, one of the biggest challenge we had in doing this was, first of all the clips are copyrighted. That's why no one ever got to really use this. But also, we never found out an easy way to move notes over to the iPod, which we thought would have been a really great feature. But this was one of these cases where the technology wasn't quite there yet, but it's still something that we were leaning towards as far as thinking about how can we take media that you can distribute your podcast and further contextualize it. So our next step in that direction was the Vertex Project. This was developed for the dental school at Columbia, and I'm not going to show a lot of these clips for a good reason. They might make you squirmish. They are modules that are meant for dental students to learn the procedures and drilling and all you can imagine. But what we did here was, and I'll show the first one just because it's not too gruesome. Is we tried to incorporate captioning and chapters and PDF attachments in these web modules where you could watch our video in the website. We also created a podcast that would podcast the video file with the PDF files. But again, there are still pieces of the puzzle that were missing. What we really want to do is podcast the captions alongside that. So this was our next step in trying to get there. So this year, I feel like all these ideas that we've been having with how are we going to really contextualize podcasting came to the next step for us with our Mapping the African American Past project. This was a grant-funded project that we developed with a grant from JP Morgan Chase and in partnership with Teachers College, which is also affiliated with Columbia. My friend and colleague, Jonah Boswich, was the head developer on this mapping project where we took different places from New York City. Now this is a tool tool for K through 12. And the idea here is all the central locations in African American history are mapped using the Google Maps API. And you can clip pieces of maps, you can move them, and you can go into further detail on these places that are on the maps here. We have term descriptions, further related assets. Here's a clip from a map that's using the map clipping tool within this site. And then it also has expert commentary provided by professors at Columbia, one of which being Kenneth Jackson, who pretty much wrote the encyclopedia on New York City. Now, when time came for this project, we wanted to create a podcast to go along with it. And ideally, we thought, well, okay, well, we can have someone reading the term description, we can have someone, we can have the expert commentary involved, and we can also include PDFs in the podcast to kind of send along all this map information. But then we got to thinking, this is really a resource tool that would be great if students could actually go to these locations in New York City and just pull up information on the location whenever they wanted to. So as an experiment, what we tried to do was we tried to make a mobile version of our podcast here. We do have the RSS available for download, but, and I know we had talked about iPhones last night at dinner. I invite everybody in the room with an iPhone to go to this website. It's maap.columbia.edu. And what we did was we translated the RSS feed to the IUI application that's available through Google Code, so that if you're out in the location in New York City, you can actually go to our website, you'll be redirected to a mobile portal, and all of our podcast assets are available on demand through that location. This is the demo here, and you can go through the visit locations, and you can add a home screen button here. But what we really wanted to do was move the idea of podcasting to on demand and really experiment with how this field of delivery can be utilized. So all the podcastable media that we produce for the MAP project is available through this mobile portal. You can go out in New York City. We had a really tough time getting our encoding rates down where it would work over Edge as well as Wi-Fi. The maps connect to the Google Maps application within the iPhone, so you can go to the location or you can find the location by clicking on the map button. So we really tried to move all the content that we produced for the MAP project to a mobile portal. I lost a lot of time with my technical difficulties, and thank you guys for dealing with that. But I wanted to show this only because these are the things that our group is really interested in doing. And if there's anything that would be a dream situation for Opencast is to move not just for lecture and mass processing of media, but also specialized cases like this, where you can really get the most out of the media that you're delivering for mobile use. And it's I think in 5 years' time, it's going to be an interesting time to see where all this stuff goes. And hopefully we can even do even greater things than this. Thanks.